Tell you how bad his meat is like. I'm not even on the picture anymore. Yeah.
Their mug is better than my mug.
Yeah.
I'll get you down there, Missy.
Are you still whining about the paper?
Yeah. I'm writing a letter to the editor.
You know, this little girl right here, she's so tall, we got to hammer her down. She's got to sit on a low bench. How did you get so tall?
I have no idea.
You had to...
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we pray this day for your ever-enduring guidance. We ask you focus and wisdom and fortitude that we may disperse our knowledge and facts intelligently among all humanity of whom we serve. Amen. Okay, announcement item, discussion closed session.
Mr. Chairman, the board met in closed session for a conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9. There was no reportable action. The board also met for a conference telephonically with labor negotiator Rick Haig, which included the following bargaining units: Lassen County Peace Officers Association, Lassen County Peace Officers Supervisors Association, Lassen County Peace Officers Management Association, and Lassen County Deputy Sheriff's Association. There was no reportable action.
Thank you. Okay, agenda approval, additions and or deletion. Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. B1, Lassen County EMS Transportation Plan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Thank you for entertaining a request for a special meeting this morning to deal with what...
I didn't know. I'm sorry. I did miss public comment. Any public comment before?
Excellent.
I didn't want that one person to be upset.
Yeah, thank you for that. I did miss that. Any public comment, or you speak during the agenda, during the item? Okay, no public comment. Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning, and thank you for entertaining a special meeting to deal with C1. As you recall, we've been engaged in the process of attempting to construct an RFP for emergency medical services proposal in the Lassen County area for some time now. We've had meetings on this issue, and there was an ENCC meeting on August 6th. There was a meeting before this board in September, I want to say September 9, somewhere thereabouts. I think we met again in December. We met again in January. We were on the agenda in February, and here we are again in March. And so we are attempting to narrow in on what we think will be included in the RFP. Of course, before we can proceed with the RFP, as this board well knows, we must first secure essentially the approval of the EMSA from Sacramento. That's the Emergency Medical Services Authority out of the state of California. They speak a language the likes of which I am unfamiliar. I don't know how else to characterize it. We thought we had an EMS transportation plan in place after September 9th, if you recall, and there was an issue that was advanced, and consequently it resulted in us amending that EMS transportation plan. I believe that was done in January, if my recollection serves me right, and that was intended to deal with the those transports by ground, essentially, and whether they're part of the exclusive operating area from the hospital down to the airport for subsequent transport by fixed-wing air. I think that was the intention of that. And then we were here a couple of weeks ago. If my timelines are getting confused, I apologize. And we had to make an amendment to our EMS transportation plan. We thought we had everything intact. And we had representatives here from both organizations, including Mr. Smith. And we thought that everything was good. The EMS transportation plan that you passed upon and recommend that NorCal EMS adopt subsequently went to NorCal EMS the next day, their board, for a not regularly scheduled meeting. I don't know if it was a regularly scheduled meeting, but it was a scheduled meeting nevertheless. And interestingly, there was a new issue. There was a new issue that was advanced that hadn't been advanced in the meeting here the day before. And I can't explain that. I don't know the reasoning therefore. Nevertheless, one of the stakeholders advanced a concern about the EMS transportation plan, and consequently that NorCal EMS board did not adopt our transportation plan. It didn't vote it down. I think essentially what happened was either the motion was tabled or withdrawn until we could resolve that issue. And so staff, when I say staff, I mean Mr. Egan and myself, have met with Mr. Narev and Mr. Spees from NorCal and our consultant essentially to try and reach a decision on this kind of late breaking, for lack of a better way of describing it, concern that was expressed by one of the stakeholders. And we have in fact incorporated into what is on your agenda as the latest, greatest amended EMS transportation plan. We think that from our perspective, and I'll speak for myself, I'll let Mr. Egan speak for himself. I'm not the policy guy, that's somebody else's job. I'm the legal guy. And the point being that just from my perspective, it appears that the EMS transportation plan that you have in your packet likely provides for the greatest chance of a single provider, granted, whoever that provider is, having the greatest chance of economic sustainability, which I think is the goal here. And I think that kind of sums up where we are. I hope I covered it all. I probably didn't.
Perhaps I'll try to focus things a little more, but I'll preface this by saying that, I'm extremely disappointed at the 11th hour, last-minute discussion that resulted in putting off this transportation plan. As I told the board last time we met regarding this, we're already in jeopardy of not meeting the deadline for a contract, and I think this further jeopardizes our ability to have a continuity of an exclusive operating area, and we may find ourselves in a position of having an open market for a period of time. The state has informally indicated through NorCal that they don't intend to grant an extension past 3 years. So this is a critical issue, and I think that bringing these 11th hour issues up are very detrimental to this process, and I hope today is the final day that we pass this on to the state so that we can get some resolution to this. The issue that was brought up at the 11th hour last week after our meeting was the basic life support transports, the interfacility basic life support transports, ground transports. We were under the understanding that there are very few of those. In fact, I'm not aware that in the past any of the ambulance companies have even staffed BLS ambulances in the area. And if that's different, maybe somebody can correct me on that. But to my knowledge, there haven't been any BLS vehicles in the exclusive operating area for the last 10 or so years. So to the extent that that's an issue, it's new to us. At any rate, the SEMSA group has informed us that they make about 300 of these BLS transports per year. We haven't confirmed that through NorCal EMS's data. However, that's what they've stated. And these 300 transfers, and I'm not sure if they're billed as BLS transfers or if they're billed as ALS transfers, and I'd ask them maybe to comment on that as we go on. But that those 300 transfers are important to the economic viability of the exclusive operating area. In conversations with Mr. Spies and Narad, I'll let them comment for themselves. We are in agreement that those transfers could be potentially important to the viability of the exclusive operating area and therefore should be included in the exclusive operating area. As a matter of practice over the last 10 years, it's our understanding that the contractor for that EOA has been receiving all of these transfers as we've gone along, however many number there are. And I'll direct you to item number 2, where we had included ALS interfacility transfers in the exclusive operating area, but had not included BLS as the contract has been for the last 10 years. So the idea was that if we were to delete ALS, the acronym ALS from 2, that would, by definition, include all interfacility transfers, whether or not they're BLS or ALS. And then below, we accepted from that a couple of items, neonatal and physician staffed ambulance transports at the very bottom. Subsequent to our discussions with NorCal regarding this, I had a call from the other provider in the area, Mountain Lifelight, who has indicated that there's a third level, and again I'll ask Dan to comment on this, a third level of critical care interfacility transports that isn't specifically addressed in there and by definition would be included in the EOA. They have a concern about that. I understand there's only very few of those, 4 or 5 a year. However, that's a concern that was raised yesterday, and I think the mountain folks will probably address that. The items 3 and 4 I'm sorry, above 3 and 4 we've got additional transfers by a fixed wing air ambulance. It was the board's intention to exclude from the EOA the transfers from the hospital to the airport for fixed wing transfer. It was not identified as fixed wing, it was identified as air ambulance, and the concern was raised that may include for whatever reason, I don't understand why you would take an ambulance from the hospital to the airport to put on a helicopter. In my conversations with Mountain, they have indicated that that's never occurred. But at any rate, that's clarification that can be easily placed in there. Number 3, the BLS non-emergency transfers would be included, and standby service with transportation authorization for a football game, rodeo, or so on would be included. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Spies, and if he has any further comments.
Thank you. I'm Dan Spies with NorCal EMS. I think you summarized it really very well. As a result of the letter of communication from SIMSA, we looked at the issue of including basic life support in IFTs. It seemed to make good sense, economic sense, that it be included, although it's not included in the current plan that we're operating under now. We felt that it would make the economic sense to include it in the revised plan. Our next step then was to say, well, if we're going to include BLS in interfacility transports, let's give all BLS authority to the successor board. There will be no question as to who can operate an ambulance, whether it's ALS or whether it's BLS. And then those were the clarifications that were made in items 3 and items 4, with the exception, this has been pointed out, transfer of a neonate is excluded. A physician staffed ambulance is excluded from the exclusive operating area. We believe after several conversations that the plan you have before you will provide the best and the most comprehensive care to the folks and the residents and visitors in Zone 1. Lassen County.
Thank you, Dan. Questions, Aaron?
Yeah, up here at the top of exclusivity, you have ALS or LALS. What's LALS? That would be like an advanced EMT. So it's a step between an EMT and a paramedic. Okay, thank you.
More questions for Dan? Thank you, Dan. Any questions from the board so far? The public? Anybody out there have any questions or comments? Everybody looks pretty happy.
I wouldn't go that far.
If you want to come to the podium, Mr. Chevy, do you have any
Well,
remarks?
we've sat back and kind of quietly let this process work, and it isn't working now. And I think this county employs NorCal for a specific purpose, for oversight in our EMS and for leadership. I think this clearly demonstrates that they are not providing either to this county presently. This process is a time thief. It's a time thief for this board. It's a time thief for your administration, and our agency would like to be in the process of providing life support care, not administrative duties of getting these factors before the board. But that said, this change, isn't it? It's not about money. Mountain Life Flight may have 4 or 5 at the most critical care transports a year that come out of this. By extracting the ALS definition from the interfacility ambulance transports. That's kind of the issue that brought Mountain Life Flight before you in the first place, is because they included interfacility ambulance transports. Most transportation plans are pre-hospital plans. In fact, in your summary, it notes this is a pre-hospital plan. Pre-hospital means getting them to the hospital. Once they're there, it falls under a whole different set of guidelines. By NorCal attempting to include all these other transports after you're at the hospital in this plan creates it's kind of a domino effect. One addition here creates a whole different wave in the medical industry. And it all comes down to patient care. By deleting the ALS and including all interfacility transfers, it sets up a problem that the hospital has to deal with. And so far, they've dealt with it in this manner. When someone arrives at the hospital and they need to be care flighted out, they call for an ambulance immediately. That ambulance is an air ambulance, but they can't always fly. Our weather here doesn't allow them to fly, always. So if that's the case, then their only option to get somebody to Reno, Sacramento, Davis, Redding, is to do by ground. In certain instances, as like I say, 4 to 5 a year, the present provider is not able to provide that service in a timely manner, in a life-saving manner. And in those cases, they have utilized Mountain Life Flight's ground ambulance that has a nurse on board. A nurse is above the standard ALS treatment, and they send that person via ground ambulance to Reno, Sacramento, wherever that is. It only happens 4 or 5 times. It's not a money issue. It's a patient care issue. It just happened last week. A person presented in some type of medical condition that was life-threatening. They were required to be transported immediately. The local provider couldn't get there in the time that the doctor wanted, so the doctor contacted Mountain Life Flight, and they provided a ground service because the air ambulance was unavailable due to weather, and they got that person, I believe, to Reno in a timely manner. Probably saved their life. This is an issue that if we don't address now, it'll be back before you in a lawsuit at a later date, because someone's going to expire because they don't have the ability to transport them in a timely manner. By taking the ALS definition out, you're including now all interfacility transports, all, including critical care transports. So you either add a line in the exceptions that says accepting critical care transports, or you put back the ALS. The BLS, those, we're unaware that anyone's even had a BLS transport in the last 10 years. And the standby service at local football games, those are non-consequential. But the ALS, it's a big issue, and it's a big issue you're going to revisit at a later date if it's not addressed now. SIMSA appeared before this board, Mr. Smith, and said, I have no issues, it looks good. The next day, he appeared at the meeting and said, I've got an issue. This process is at jeopardy of, the entire process is at jeopardy because NorCal's allowed this thing to string out for months when it shouldn't have. We need to exert some leadership, and we need to demonstrate to the state that we put patient care first. And that's what we're asking you to do, is put patient care first. We want the ALS left in there, and we want an exception to critical care transports so the doctors still have the ability to use an alternative in life-saving or life-threatening situation. With that, I'll leave.
Anybody else wish to speak? In the back row, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, gentlemen, Mr. Egan, I apologize for starting all this over again, and I'm going to give you a little history. I was here with the board on that day. The next day, the NorCal board meeting had a data phone meeting. I was on a phone conference, and I heard about different exemptions, which Mr. Spies can speak to. Not just one. We talked about the hospital to air stuff. We talked about 3 other exemptions that occurred or were included in this. And I went, wait a minute. And I wrote the letter to all of you that stopped all this. Not for SEMSA. Whoever wins, you're about to do an RFP. Maybe we win, maybe we don't. This is about the patients in this county and taking care of them, just as the fine gentleman said, taking care of them and being able to do that in a rural county economically. And it's not just about economics, it's about the whole picture. And you have a small rural county. You and we have, for the last 9 years, provided service to this area. And I believe we have done a reasonably good job, if not a very good job. And when we had the verbal discussion with NorCal, and I would disagree with the fine gentleman, you know what, these are very, Mr. Spies, NorCal, everybody, these are complex issues I've dealt with for 42 years now in my career. And Chairman Pyle told me on the phone, he goes, you know what, I'm a farmer. I know a lot about farming and ranching. I don't know anything about medicine. I said, well, sir, I know a lot about medicine and EMS system design. That's what I've done in my career. And I know nothing about farming. I can't grow a garden. And I said, all the reason I wrote this letter to all of you was to take a moment to understand the language that you have in the RFP that's going to go out to providers, not just us, not just Mountain Lifelight or Lassen. It could be Kermex Plus, it could be everybody. Everyone's going to look at this, and this will impact your community for the next 10 years. And I simply went, I want to make sure that whether we win or lose is not the point of my letter. It was making sure that everything you do is with thought. And understanding in a small, rural, hard-to-serve community, both economically and service-wise, you need every dollar in that you can economically coming into the system, and you know what? You will have experts. That's us guys. We will provide you through an RFP with potential solutions. And in my letter, I said 2 things. One, I would simply encourage everyone to include every transport into your provider, whoever it is, to have them do that. And secondly, you have an issue that I've talked with Mr. Egan and others in the back of the room on that are outside of the EOA, the exclusive operating area, up in Eric Beaver, New Beaver. What's the other one? 80. We have had those conversations. And you know what? They're outside of the EOA, but they're part of the county. And in my letter I said to you, you know what? Ask the people who would bid to provide, with the privilege, to provide the service to this county, to say, don't require it, how might we help those people? Because they're struggling up there too. And when all's said and done, this is about making sure, not for SEMSA, not for anyone else, that we have done everything. You guys, make the decision. We will choose whether we bid or not. You make the decision to take care of this county and do it as you have done for the last 9-10 years without any tax dollars. All of us are hurting for dollars. You are, we are, everyone is. And it's like, how do you do this and provide the service necessary to take care of your people in a rural community and to at least look at the people up in the other community, in the other area, and take care of them? How do we do that? That's why I'm not a farmer. I'm a medical guy. And I just encourage you at the end of the day, you will do what you do. It is your county. We have done this for a while without any tax subsidy, and I just want to make sure you people knew, as I didn't know, and I'm sorry, I didn't know, that now all these different, every exemption listed up here bifurcates economically and oversight away from your purview. And so I just wanted to say, take a step back here, and I'll be quiet now.
Any questions? Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I just have one question. We, had the discussion in December, and we heard there could be no changes, and then we had a discussion in January, and there were some more changes, and then we had a discussion last month that led to even more changes. My question to you, and I can say would also be true to Mr. Chitty, are there any other potential changes that can we hear here? I mean, my concern is that once we make a decision, and we say we need to make a decision, I would like to know how many other outliers are out there that could affect that decision. So, I rhetorically asked the question last time, how many times do we have to vote on it? And the question, and the question I would continue to ask is, how many more times do we have to vote on it? Are we at the bottom? Is there no more potential for distractions to the decision? Because my question would be more along the lines that there are. Let's get those on the table now too, and let's try to get to the bottom so that we are all on the same page doing the same thing, hopefully accomplishing the same good of taking care of the people. Because the folks that are out there, the ones that are your clients and our constituents, are getting extremely confused and extremely concerned, not by who says what, but where does it go from here? Is this the last straw, or are we just midway through the process?
My opinion, sir, is whatever you decide today, and I have talked with Mr. Spees out when you were on closed session, whatever, and he said, are you okay with this from a provider's perspective? I will tell you, from a consultant perspective, I would go put every transport under a provider, whoever it is. That's what I said in my letter, and I stand by it. Short of that, the neonates, the physician stuff, whatever, the hospital, the airport fixed wing, if everyone's comfortable with it, these are your calls. And I'm just telling you that it is stuff where every exemption that you allow bifurcates the dollars and the oversight. And it is something where that's your call. I'm simply a provider. And I'm standing here today both as a provider and a consultant going, I put every transport and see what you get. Everyone, us, Mount Lifelike, Lassen, everyone has the ability to bid for the service. And let's see what we get. That's what we did 9-10 years ago. But sir, to your question, would it be okay with what you've all done today from our standpoint? Yeah, we'll
No,
look at it.
that wasn't my question. My question is
Anyway.